Call the Oak Park Heights City Council meeting for Tuesday, April 23rd to order. First is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is the approval of the, I think all these are on. The approval of the agenda, and we do have one item to add under consent agenda K is city administrator to make offer for finance director. Is there any changes or additions?
Move approval with a change.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Doherty, second by Councilmember Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
And just, I thought I should mention that there was a meeting in here earlier, so some of the microphones might still be turned off. Okay, good. Next is council staff reports. I had a meeting with Excel and the plant manager last week. Got some updates about some things. Obviously, it's 2028 is what the retirement is, but they hope to have more answers by where everything lies by 2026. They're working on their request for proposal for the solar field that is over in Wisconsin. So none of that has been totally decided yet. And there might be some upgrades to the transmission lines that run from the substation over to the Willow River Station. But more to come on that. And then this afternoon was the Energy Transition Advisory Commission with many of the commissioners from the state, with Public Utilities Commission, Commerce, et cetera. Then I was elected co-chair for that today. And then there's going to be several more subcommittees coming about like they were last year, 2 years ago, 2 to 3 times a week, and then also with the Midwest Governors Association. And then there are some hearings that will be starting with the Public Utilities Commission on the new integrated resource plan. So when I get those dates, I will make sure you're all copied on that. And then we did receive a letter today that the city was awarded the Tree City USA Award again, and I think it's 31st year, something like that.
41st.
21st?
40th.
It's a long time. Yeah.
Okay, next is Councilmember Doherty.
Yeah, only thing, I participated in the police officer interviews last Thursday. That'll be it.
Thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
I attended the Middle St. Croix Watershed meeting. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Liljegren.
Nothing new to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Rowe.
I was also at the police interviews last week.
Thank you. Next is staff reports. Administrator Reif.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Last week we had the open house for the Washington County's project, their emergency housing services building. I had a pretty good turnout here from our residents. Thought it was pretty informative and helpful for the residents that I talked to have that meeting. I've got here a draft letter for us to send to the Planning Commission there at Stillwater as they consider this project, of just recommendations that we have for conditions for the project. So I'll pass that all out to you. I'll send you an electronic copy, and if you could just let me know if you had any comments on that. I reviewed it with Attorney Sandstrom here too, and so looking to get that out here this week. That's all I had, Mayor.
Well, thank you. Next is Police Chief Hansen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just to update on the new police officer hiring for everybody. We have narrowed it down to 3. So we have 3 that are going into background as of today. And then hopefully they'll get done in the next month and a half. And in June, we'll be in front of you for final approval. Additionally, just a note, we've got our school resource officer, Dave Winey, is being recognized tonight at the Stillwater School Board tonight, along with a couple other SROs, which is nice. We will also be hosting or have a booth or table out at the Career Day this Thursday that the school has invited us out there to participate with. Look like at least 50 other careers, so that'll be kind of neat to be out there. And that's it.
Well, thank you. Next is Assistant City Administrator Pinsky.
Mayor, Council, Ryan and Angela Young at 5510 O'Brien Avenue North were chosen as the most recent recycling award winner. And then just a reminder that cleanup day is Saturday, May 18th. Again, we're not taking appliances, mattresses, or electronics. However, we will be taking construction waste, general household waste, furniture, and yard waste.
Thank you.
7:30 a.m. until noon.
Thank you. And I won't come out there so it doesn't rain.
Okay.
Next is the visitors' public comments section, and this is a time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on any item. Not, we'll move on. We have our 2023 audit review presentation with Rebecca Peterson. Is it Rebecca or Betty or both? Okay.
Rebecca, you can go from this podium here. Do I have a clicker for that? I think if you tell Jake.
Yeah, I'll help you out, Rebecca, absolutely.
Mayor and hi, thank you for having me here this evening. I'm going to go over a summary of the audit results and then just some high-level financial information. There are 4 reports that we issue in conjunction with the audit. The first report is the primary purpose of the audit, which is for us to issue an opinion on the fair presentation of the city's financial statements. It doesn't say that the city's financial statements are 100% accurate to the penny, just that they're a fair presentation of the city's financial operations for the year ended December 31st, 2023. Thank you. We conducted our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards as well as government audit standards. And as I indicated, we just plan our audit to obtain reasonable assurance. You know, it would be cost and time prohibitive for us to look at every single transaction that the city enters into. So we do a sample of transactions sufficient enough to enable us to issue our opinion. The result this year is an unmodified or a clean opinion on the city's financial statements. It's the highest level of assurance we can provide, and in short, it's the result you want on your audit. The next report that we issue in conjunction with the audit is a report on internal controls. We don't audit the city's internal controls, but we gain an understanding of the controls and processes that the city has in place in order to plan our audit. And if anything came to our attention during the course of our audit that we thought warranted your attention or that we were required to report as an internal control finding, we would be reporting that here. This year, the results are no internal control findings, which generally is the result you want again. The next report that we issue in conjunction with the audit is a report on Minnesota legal compliance. We're not attorneys, so it's not a legal opinion, but from an accountant's perspective, the Office of the State Auditor has a series of checklists that they require independent auditors to go through in conjunction with our audit. And if anything came to our attention during the review of those checklists and during those procedures, we would be required to report it. There's no instances or items of noncompliance reported in this year's report. We anticipate that the state auditor is going to be changing some of the requirements within their checklist in the coming year or two. And so we've met with staff to talk about what we expect those upcoming changes to be in hopes that the city is able to stay ahead of those and continue to not receive legal compliance findings. The final report that we issue in conjunction with the audit is a communication to those charged with governance. There is a long formal letter that gets addressed to council that's primarily templated language that we're required to communicate to council. So on the slide up here, I've pulled out the key points that are really the items within that letter that are specific to the city and warrant your attention. The first item that I have bulleted here is accounting policies used or changed during the year. During 2023, the city implemented a new accounting standard. It's called GASB 96 on subscription-based IT arrangements. And really what that standard requires is if the city has entered into some sort of subscription-based agreement where you're accessing IT information or IT services, in the past, that would have just been expensed year over year, and the financial statements wouldn't have reflected any sort of long-term commitment if you had a long-term commitment in one of those agreements. This standard now requires us to look at any future liability associated with some of those long-term agreements and put them on the city's balance sheet and recognize that liability over time. The city's water meter monitoring agreement qualified for reporting under this, and so that is capitalized as a liability and an asset on the city's financial statements, and that's new this year. The next item I've bulleted here is significant estimates in the financial statements. We're required to remind you that some of the numbers in the financial statements are estimates. Not everything is precise, and the most significant estimate from our perspective is the net pension liability. The city employees are participants in the state para pension plan, and this is the city's share of the city employees' share of the pension plan. This is a significantly lower number at about 2.1 million than it was last year. That's due to some actuarial assumption changes, as well as just what's happening in the market. We encountered no significant difficulties in performing the audit this year. No disagreements with management from our perspective. And then other matters that we would want to communicate to you, we'll see this when we look at financial results as well. But I just want to mention that last year we saw a significant reduction in investment income due to some unrealized losses on the city's investment portfolio. And if the city holds its portfolio to maturity, those will self-correct over time. And you'll see that in this year's financial statements, that the loss from last year is starting to correct itself. I have some financial indicators bulleted here, but we'll look at those as we go through the financial information. This first table that I have here is just a high-level summary of what happened with the city's funds this year. And I'll just call your attention to the general fund, the city's primary operating fund. You can see that there was an increase in fund balance this year, and that primarily relates to two significant components. One is that increase in unrealized market value adjustment, a self-correction from last year. So part of this increase is really just fixing last year's loss. Another significant component in this is the public safety aid that the city received right at the end of December that was fully recognized as revenue in 2023 and is impacting this number here. Even though it's not available for use for any purpose, it's really restricted to specific purposes. That's showing up here as well. Right. You can see here that the city's fund balance is reflective of that, with the fund balance increasing. The water fund, the bar graph here is operating expenses, and that red line is operating revenue. And you can see the trend over time that operating revenue is generally covering your operating expenses, but there's not a whole lot of room in there. Depreciation is reflected in here, but when you have old assets, those cost a lot less than the new capital assets. And when you have these utility funds, it's important that you have sufficient revenues coming into the fund to cover future capital needs. So we generally like to see that operating revenue line a little bit further above the operating expenses bar. And my understanding is that the city is looking at a utility rate study to help address some of this. And if we go to the next slide and look at sewer, you'll see here that in 2023, sewer revenue didn't quite cover operations. So again, this is something that the utility rate study will address. For the city's storm sewer fund, operating revenue is well above operating expenses, which has been the historical trend, with the exception of 2018 when there was a transfer related to the comprehensive plan. That's all I have for you today, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much. Good job. Any questions for Rebecca?
No.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you for having me here.
Betty,
That's it.
do you have anything you wanted to say?
No, I just want to say thank you again. Enjoyed working, of course, with these guys because I have been for 40 years. And so it's been always fun. Also just with council and the direction the council's given, it's been a joy for having my career and ending my career here.
I know you were looking forward to the last audit that you would have, so
This is my last audit.
we're going to miss you.
She hung around.
Thank you for everything.
She likes the audits, so that's why she hung around.
But you can stay around for budget too if you want.
Yes, you can always stick
You can
around.
stay around for budget?
No.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
All right, then we'll move on to consent agenda, which is approved bills and investments, checks 70528 to 70572 for a total of $226,280.32. Approve city council minutes for April 9th, 2024. Adopt resolution approving a gambling premises permit application made by St. Thomas Academy for gambling activity at Applebee's. Authorize the brain tumor 5K race on May 19th, 2024, subject to execution of the race agreement. Authorize the St. Croix Crossing Half Marathon on July 27th, 2024, subject to execution of the race agreement. Adopt proclamation for Municipal Clerks Week, May 5th to the 11th, 2024. Approve Officer Brian's walk and Officer Lindsay Paradise to sergeant positions effective May 1st, 2024. Approve participation in NOMO May for 2024. Approve installation of swings at Oak Park Crossing Park. Approve grant agreement for the Minnesota DNR Shade Tree Program Bonding Grant Award. And city administrator to make an offer for finance director.
I will move the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Runk, second by Councilmember Doherty. Jacob?
Councilmember Doherty.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Liljegren.
Yes.
Councilmember Runk.
Yes.
Mayor McCumber.
Yes. And thank you, Jennifer, for for all that you do, and that was for the recognition for Clerks Week. We have no public hearings, we have no old business, and we have no new business. So are there any other council items or announcements? If not, we will be moving to a closed session, and Kevin, would you like to pick up on that?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Your city administrator, Jacob Reif, has now been with the city for 6 months, and pursuant to the terms of his contract with the city, he has to undergo a performance review after his first 6 months of employment. And so tonight, the council is going to go into a closed session pursuant to Minnesota statutes 13D.05, subdivision 3A, in order to conduct that performance evaluation of City Administrator Reif. We did give him the option to have it held in open session, as is the required option to give to him per the statute, and he said, nope, let's do it in closed session. So we will entertain a motion from the council to go into closed session. It will be tape recorded as required by statute, and my office will put that into our city administrator related file for that recording.
And will we be able to, do you want us to come back out here to adjourn, or can we adjourn there and you will give an update next time?
Sure, I think it's easiest probably to just say that we will adjourn from the closed session, and we'll provide a brief summary at the start of the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.